All right, we are recording.
Obi-Wan, go.
Oh, that was clever. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rebels Cast. Yes, it's actually the Rebels Cast. Can you believe it? I'm your host,
I
Nick.
can't believe it.
It's not butter. I'm your host, Nick Weymouth, and with me, as always, is the one, the only, the...
Josh Shaw.
Josh Shaw. By the way, note to self, I'm turning us down ever so slightly so we don't overmodulate.
Okay.
So I'll make an adjustment there. Yeah, Josh Shaw, you didn't even give a fake name. You're just like, I'm Josh Shaw.
I didn't give
I just
didn't feel like it.
Just didn't feel like it. So we're here, and it's the Rebels Cast, and the thought here was with us. Josh came over tonight, this afternoon. We had a wonderful pork chop dinner because we are not vegetarians, and it's my birthday weekend.
Right.
And my birthday's in a few days, and so we had the food, and then we were talking later and hanging out, and Josh was like, so the Obi-Wan episode is coming on tonight. I was like, yes. And then he said, did you bring it up first or did I bring it up first? We were both thinking it, but one of us said something.
I think you did.
Yeah.
We were both
I was like,
thinking
maybe we ought to just watch that and then do the Rebels Cast about that, skip all the other stuff. Josh was like, yep.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. So we're like, yes, all right, this will be great. So, we hung out for a while, a little bit longer. We put Nigel to bed. Liz went to bed. It's like, okay. Well, actually, she was still on the couch. And it was like, okay, let's watch the episode. And we're going to talk about it. It's going to be great because Obi-Wan. Then we know that it's not James Arnold Taylor being Obi-Wan. So there's that bit of a bummer. But still, we're excited. We're fired up. Here we go. Mm-hmm. So welcome to the Rebels Cast. I promise we are not trying to be Debbie Downers.
No.
Like, I went into this episode because I'd glanced at the IGN review.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
had I.
And then I knew that Dave Filoni and Henry Gilroy had co-wrote the episode. Mm-hmm. And I knew that Obi-Wan was in it and Darth Maul was in it. And so I'm like, I was looking forward to it. Yeah. I really was legitimately like, all right, this is going to be something. Mm-hmm. And then
turned out to be a big bucket of nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean,
not a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly. Not
maybe
nothing,
a quarter full bucket.
It's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's just because we were kind of joking about it beforehand. We're like, maybe I pulled up the DVR and there's all these other episodes. Like, yeah, we're skipping all this. It's like, oh, you got some Clone Wars characters in an episode? We'll watch that one.
Yeah, pretty much.
And because it was always, as we've said before, it's like we like these new characters, but we just don't like them enough.
Yeah,
like there's just not enough of a something there.
Well, on that note, since some of these people may not listen to the Inner Dorkdom,
right? That's true.
Let's explain where we've been.
Yes,
for the last several months.
Yes.
We've had a lot of things come up.
Yes,
on podcasting days. Mm-hmm. Nick unfortunately had a death in the family.
Yes,
we had an episode we had to do of the Inner Dorkdom with our friend of the show Todd. Mm-hmm. When the Switch was revealed in January. Mm-hmm. So we had to do that episode because we really only get Todd maybe once a year,
right? And it was a perfect time to talk about the Switch because the reveal had just happened.
Yeah.
We weren't sure where he was in terms of Rebels watching.
Right.
Apparently he was more caught up than we were at the time.
Oh, okay.
I've subsequently found out. But
okay.
Oh, well, who knew?
We didn't think he would be.
We didn't think he would be because he usually is. Usually you're like, hey, you been watching Rebels? No. Are you watching Clone Wars? No. Because he's busy. He's got kids and wife and all that. But so yeah, it turns out he actually had seen more than we had. But we didn't ask him because we just figured.
Yeah.
And then, but also because the Switch, it's Nintendo's new system. That's something we all are excited about. The three of us video games. So we did that.
And then we had for those that don't know, but I think we've mentioned it before several times. But like, I've been helping make a video game.
Yes.
For the last couple of years. And things are finally starting to kind of line up to release a demo. We're almost finished with it. In fact, we've we finalized the voice cast yesterday. So we have 3 fairly well-known voice actors actually playing parts in our game, which is pretty neat.
Pretty crazy.
But before that, we added Nick to the team, and he's helping with the writing and stuff like that, and also the like cutscene directing and editing and stuff like that. So we've had to do some stuff on that because we're starting to reach kind of a deadline here. So we've got to get that out.
So there's been a couple times Josh has come over. It's like, well, we can't record because we've got anything because we've got to work on this stuff. Yeah.
And then we had the Switch was actually released was the week before last.
Yeah,
right?
March 3rd. And it was the day before we were set to record.
Right.
And Josh got one.
Yeah.
So we had to talk about it.
We had to talk about the Switch to back end the conversation with Todd.
Yes.
And so now we're where we're at.
Yes.
Now, as far as watching Rebels, now let's be honest on this one.
Yes.
Like, to be perfectly honest, at least on my end, like, I don't really think about Rebels anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm it's not really on my radar as much right now because, I mean, with the game and stuff like that, that's been kind of in my free time. That's kind of what I focus on. So I don't watch TV that much anymore.
Kind of like an Amish person making a video game.
Right.
Wait.
And, and then there's the other, part, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute. But, so when I don't really think about podcasting on it. It's like, I know we've got to, I've got to come over here every 2 weeks and we record something or we work. And here the last couple of weeks it's been working on the game and stuff. But then there's the other factor to it. And, Nick alluded to it with the characters and stuff like that, just not really caring for the characters that much. For me, it's also, I just don't really, on the whole, I don't really care for the show all that much.
Yeah.
And it's hard to want to be jazzed up and ready and fired up to talk about it.
A show that you're just kind of not really jazzed up and fired up about.
Yeah, because the last episode we did, and we watched, I think it was 3 episodes. Or I watched 3 episodes,
3,
you watched 2.
Right, because one of them was stuck off the
DR.
Yeah. VR thingy.
The VR.
The D, the V, the R. Give me an H. Give me a C. Give me a B. What does that spell? Nothing. Learn to write. Learn to spell. Go ahead.
So we watched those episodes, or I watched those 3 episodes. Nick watched 2, and all of them we were just kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's not like, oh my goodness, this show's horrible and stupid and just ridiculous.
The worst crap I've ever seen.
Yeah, no,
it's not that. But a lot of it has to do with something I think we talked about a little bit in the last episode of Inner Dorkdom. Some of it has to do with the feeling, the knowing in the backs of our brains.
Yeah.
That, or at least the fact that the question is in the back of our brains, is this what George Lucas would have approved?
Right.
Like, and
we just don't know.
Yeah.
Because it might be that some things
it might be.
But we just don't know.
We just don't know. But there is something, and maybe it's just our subconscious trying to tell us that.
Right.
But there's something about it that just doesn't feel like George Lucas-y style
to quote
stuff.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, something feels out of place.
Right, exactly.
There's just something, I have wondered if I am going through some like sort of mild level of depression. I haven't really wondered that. But I say that because one of the things that sometimes is a sign of depression is less enjoyment out of things.
Oh, yeah.
And so I have been feeling over the last several years that it's like movies, television shows, video games just don't excite me.
Yeah.
The way that they used to.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that it's not really like some kind of low-level depression because, I mean, I still enjoy spending time with my family. I still enjoy music. The Metallica album is awesome.
Yeah, it's freaking great.
You know? I mean, it's like, so I still can enjoy things. And then there are the occasional movies. It's like The Martian. Love The Martian.
Yeah.
And I can still get fired up about old stuff. Like, last few weeks, I've been on a Knight Rider kick.
Yeah.
Both the original show and even the 2008 show.
Mm-hmm. You know what I think, or at least it is for me a little bit, and it has nothing to do with George Lucas. It has nothing to do with entertainment per se. For me, a lot of what it has to do with, and I know this is getting real, but a lot of it has to do with politics.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, man.
That's true. And it's,
like, you can't escape it. Like, I mean, entertainment is supposed to be our escape from this junk. And now it's gotten where it's injected into it in just about everything you watch. I mean...
And it's sapping our joy.
Exactly. It's like...
And I don't think I mean our just in terms of mine and yours.
I think it's everybody. Yeah.
People may not realize it or appreciate it.
Yeah.
But it's like it's sucking it out of us.
Yeah.
And we're all more
and I think
grumpy and...
Yeah. And I think when like, you know, you say you're into Knight Rider and everything right now, it's like, I think that is partially, it's not just a nostalgia thing, you know, just straight up nostalgia, but it's, in a way it is, in the sense that you're like, okay, right now, just socially things just stink.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not a good place.
Yeah.
But back then it didn't.
Yeah.
And things were great. I mean, maybe it's because I was an oblivious kid and didn't think about stuff like that. But at least, you know, I can remember a time when that stuff did not enter my brain.
Right, exactly.
And, you know, I think going back to that is probably in a sense your coping mechanism for that.
Right. And let me go back to something that was enjoyable without being anvilicious, to use one of the TV tropes terms, where it's like they're banging you on the head, over your head with an anvil. Look at this message. I mean, it's like everything seems like now it's like, well, where's going to be the take that, to use another TV tropes term? Yeah. You know, where's going to be the subtle jab at Republicans or the subtle jab at Democrats or at this or at that, or we're going to bring up some current issue, or there's going to be something. It's like you go watch an old episode of Knight Rider and it's Michael Knight and Kit rolling into a town and there's people in trouble in some way, and Michael Knight is going to be a modern day Knight, and he's going to have his grinning smile, and he's going to have his, you know, charm with the ladies, and he's going to have to sometimes butt heads with the local cops that are either corrupt or no good. But that wasn't some statement about cops.
No.
It was just like he comes in and there's this thing, and Kit is going to be snarky, but he's also going to be objective, and he's going to be a stinking cool Trans Am with a really cool dashboard and the ability to jump ramps. I mean turbo boost.
Jump ramps.
And at the end of the day, you know, Devin's going to give him some assignment. Michael's going to flirt with Bonnie a little bit. They're going to pull out of the semi-trailer, the Rook, and they're going to go off on their adventure. There's going to be some cool music. Yep. You know? And there's just not as much of that these days. And I think also part of it for me is it seems like that with entertainment these days, and there are exceptions, of course, but there's a lot of it where it's like
we have email, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And it's from not too long ago. So.
Interesting. Good.
But go ahead.
The tastes that sort of are prevalent in Hollywood or prevalent in wherever things are getting made just aren't matching mine. People aren't making shows about talking cars. They aren't making shows about cool space stuff.
Right.
They're not making time travel shows. Although actually there's like 3 time travel shows on television right now.
Yeah.
There's a memory that I have, but I do not remember what it was, and so I'm going to go and sing a song of Buzz. One of them is the NBC one, Timeless, I think it's called. It's got Anakin. It's got oh
really,
Matt Lanter in it.
Oh,
I don't know if that one's not
Hayden.
Hayden. Matt Lanter. I don't know if that one's actually been picked up or continuing or not, but that one like began in the beginning of the season. there's also Time After Time on ABC, which is based on a book. There was also a movie made many years ago, starring Soren, Dr. Tolian Soren, or also Malcolm McDowell. And what was his character's name? Loomis, Dr. Loomis.
Yeah,
because he was
in
Loomis
in the Halloween remake.
Yeah, Halloween remake. Yeah. But yeah, so him and Mary Steenburgen.
Oh yes, Doc's wife.
Doc's wife, yeah. So kind of
and Ted Danson's wife.
Yes, exactly. In reality,
how's that work?
I'm confused. It's all in my head now. But so there's that, and then there's a comedy on Fox just premiered like a week or two ago called Making History, which is more of a goofy comedy kind of thing.
Heard about that one.
Saw the first episode, liked it okay. The main guy ends up inadvertently stopping the Revolutionary War from happening. But it's weird. He goes back to the future, and the guy that was like this history, because he works like as a janitor at a college, and there's a history professor there, and the history professor knows that the war was supposed to start but didn't. So I'm like, but wait a minute, but he didn't travel back in time with him. So maybe there's something I missed. But anyway, so like they go back, and it's one of these where it turns out that like some of those founding father guys were like, "Here, you just drank from the pea cup," and like they're goofy and dumb. And so it's like on the one hand it's funny, on the other hand it's like, well, but you know, it comes to a point where my suspension of disbelief gets affected. So, but I think I like the idea. But anyway, so there was some time travel, but they ain't making no quantum leap.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's also that, what's the CW show, the superhero show?
Oh, yeah. Heroes of Tomorrow.
Yeah, something
like that. Which I hear is very good. And it's got one of the more real Supermans in it.
Right.
Which is funny, because that's not a crack on Henry Cavill.
No.
Because Henry Cavill could be an awesome Superman if Warner Brothers would just let him.
Yeah, let him be a good Superman.
Just let him be a good Superman. But anyway, but I digress. So maybe it's partially that, like just the taste. They're just not making things that really excite me. I mean, I know that this is also what I'm about to say is partially a problem of modern technology and cell phones and sort of our ADD kind of a shortened attention spans. But it's like there's not a whole lot that like Liz will put on for us to watch that I will put stuff down and just focus on. Right. You know?
Yeah.
There are a couple of comedies that I will. The Odd Couple, but that's because it's got Matthew Perry and Thomas Lennon in it, and I'm amused by both of them. There's actually another sitcom on ABC, I think it is, called American Housewife. Katie Mixon plays the titular American Housewife. But the husband in the show is Dietrich Bader.
Ah, yes, he's funny.
And Dietrich is funny. And it's a good show. And she's funny. And it's a good show. So there's that. But in terms of like long form stuff, there's Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. And that's something that I need to get back into.
And I'm telling you, I'm not a reboot fan. If you've ever listened to the Rebels Cast much or the Inner Dorkdom, you know I'm not a reboot fan. Josh is not a reboot fan. I'm like, give me a sequel more so than a reboot. But and when
that one's actually good.
It is. Well, that's the thing. It's like, and when they said there's going to be a Lethal Weapon show, I'm like, really? I mean, I'm going to give it a shot because, you know, I like the movies. We'll see. But really?
Well, the fact that it had, like, when they announced that Damon Wayans was playing Roger Murtaugh, I was like, okay, maybe this might be good.
Work. Yeah, because I love
like
Damon.
Him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that. And it is the chemistry between Damon Wayans and Clayne. I forgot Clayne's last name.
Yeah.
Sorry, fellow Alabamian. But their chemistry is great. I mean, they work together as Riggs and Murtaugh as well, if probably not maybe even a scotch better.
Oh, really?
Maybe. That's tough to say. Yeah. But then Mel Gibson and Burt Bacharach.
Burt Bacharach? Danny Glover, maybe?
I was blanking on Danny Glover's name, and the first name that popped into my head, I knew it wasn't the right name.
Burt Bacharach.
To my credit. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis Costello and Burt Bacharach.
That would have been a whole different kind of movie right there.
It would have been. Yes, it would have been. But anyway, because the thing is, it's like Danny and Mel had 4 movies together.
Right.
Well, Damon and Clayne have already had like 15 episodes of the show, so they've had more time. You know. But anyway, so it's like there's that. But that's kind of about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, bringing it back to Star Wars and bringing it back to Rebels, like the first season, you know, we're watching, we're like, this is pretty good stuff. Like the first episode, we're like, this is pretty tight. And then it never it never really took off for me.
Right.
And it's like, it's a show that I want to like more than I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's like, I like Blind Kanan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked Kanan when he had sight. I like Kanan. I like Hera. I like Chopper. You know, I like Sabine. But you don't get a lot with her.
No.
So we don't, I like her, but I don't know that much about her.
Yeah.
And then as well,
and people are saying, well, they just had a show where it was her and her mom.
I know, I ain't seen that yet. So
like, well, and still, even counting that,
right,
and counting the episode that we covered on the show last time, there's still just not a whole lot with her.
There's just, and that's the thing. It's like, and even the things that are there, it's like, I like this, but there's something missing. There's that, what, the French color surgeon, I don't know what.
Yeah.
There's just some kind of magic, some kind of spark, some kind of something that's just not there. And so it's like, I mean, Zeb, whatever. Ezra, again, one day I'm like, he's all right. And another day I'm like, stop it. And we've talked about that before. But so so this episode, it's like, it's going to be Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the magic still.
Well, and the thing more so is just Obi-Wan. Because, Obi-Wan is kind of like, for you, that's your favorite Star Wars character. For me, it flip-flops between Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
We were still like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's going to be in the show. Right. We wanted Obi-Wan to be in the show since back in Clone Wars.
Exactly.
We wanted to know what Obi-Wan was doing on Tatooine. Because we knew he wasn't just sitting around.
Right.
And we're like, yes, please, this is going to be awesome.
And hopefully, because when they brought Anakin, in last season with Ahsoka, when they brought Ahsoka into the show and then there was her clash with Anakin, that was awesome. And Matt Lanter actually voiced him for a minute and that was sweet. And so this is going to be awesome.
Yep. And it was okay.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't bad. I wouldn't say don't watch it.
No.
At all. But I just...
It just really didn't fire us up like we thought it would.
And if Obi-Wan Kenobi can't get us fired
that's sad.
up,
yeah,
that says something. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If it was James Arnold Taylor that had voiced Obi-Wan, do you think that would have made a difference? Because I'm pretty sure that it would have for me.
I think it would have made some difference.
Yeah, I'm not saying it would have made me go, oh, goodness.
Yeah.
But it would have helped.
Yeah, it definitely would have helped. Because the guy who did his voice... which I don't know who.
Stephen Stanton.
Stephen Stanton. Okay.
It's like David Dunn or Peter Parker.
Oh yeah.
Stephen Stanton.
Superhero. Super voice actor.
Super voice actor man.
Like he like we were talking. You were like, well, let's give this little story. As we're watching it, Liz is sitting there on the couch, and she turns and looks at the television, and she's like, "Is that supposed to be Obi-Wan?"
And Liz knows enough about Star Wars
knows
to where
plenty about Star Wars.
She knows who Obi-Wan is.
Right. And Nick was like, yeah. And she was like, well, he doesn't sound right. And she knows enough Obi-Wan to know what Alec Guinness sounds like, which is clearly what Stephen Stanton is going for.
Yeah.
And he succeeds on some lines.
Oh, yeah.
But there are others where it's just like, I don't know if his voice is just too deep.
Yeah, I think it's
or what it is.
Well, the thing that Alan...
It's not enough from the higher register.
Exactly.
It's more down here.
It's like, I'm like this. And it's like, no, you've almost got to be a little bit Bart Simpson-y.
Yeah.
A little bit of like this, not like quite like... But a little bit of that to get like...
More nasally.
More nasally, yeah. You'd be like, your father wanted you to have this, but he was too old, and you're too old, and wait, that's the wrong line. Oh, I messed it all up. Can we try again? As there's that kind of cartooniness almost to the voice. And I remember when they first had the trailer for the fact that Obi-Wan was going to be here in the show, and they actually included the line, "You're in the wrong place."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's clearly not James Arnold Taylor, but that's very good. I have to admit, that's very good. So then when you watch the full episode and you get not just that one line, but a whole host of lines, it's like, yeah, there are lines that he really, really nailed it, but then there are plenty of lines, I would say more lines, where it sounded too much like Tarkin to me.
Yeah. I think one thing for me, too, is just the actual lines he said.
Yeah.
Just something felt off about them.
It's like, that's just the writing didn't quite catch old Obi-Wan.
It was like, Obi-Wan from, especially from episode 2 on. Episode 1, Obi-Wan is a pretty serious guy. 2, 3, and 4, and Ghost 5 and 6. Obi-Wan's kind of got this, like, playful, like, I'm kind of messing with you a little bit. Like, but he can be, serious and contemplative.
That thing.
Like, but this is like, in my opinion, he was just way too serious.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's not the right word, but it was too straightforward.
Yeah.
Like, one thing that kind of struck me as odd is like how he supposedly knew everything.
Yeah.
Like, I know you've got Qui-Gon apparently talking to you.
Right. You got Yoda.
You got Yoda.
Probably.
But something
felt out of place.
It did. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It just did. Something was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it didn't feel like the bridging of
it didn't.
Clone Wars prequel era Obi-Wan and episode 4 Obi-Wan. It didn't feel like this is that same character. It's like watching those scenes, it almost for me highlighted the fact that, well, Ewan McGregor / James Arnold Taylor was prequel Obi-Wan, and he was this one guy, and then there's Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, and he was this other guy. It's like it brought it to the forefront as opposed to fusing the two. And I think it's because he was too much episode 4 Obi-Wan, but too serious, and not enough prequel Clone Wars Obi-Wan.
Exactly, yeah. Like, it like what you said about it seeming like there are two different people. Like, I think, in my personal opinion, episode 3, Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan, does a really good job at bridging that gap.
Oh, yes.
And then you bring this in and just, it feels like something got inserted and shoved in there that didn't need to be there.
Exactly.
Like,
I wonder if they had set this show 5 or 10 years earlier.
That's quite a possibility, yeah.
And so we got to see Obi-Wan in that transitionary period.
Right.
Then maybe they would have been willing to do a transitionary thing, and it would have helped bridge the gap. Because, I mean, let's be honest. This Obi-Wan is probably a year or two out, if that far. I don't know if we know officially now how far away episode 4 is.
Yeah.
But it's not that far away.
No, I wouldn't think
so you would expect him to be mostly settled into his Alec Guinness kind of thing. But 10 years prior, when Luke and Leia are probably only 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that, and he's only thus been in exile for that number of years, you could see something sort of more in the middle, which, again, maybe in the live-action movie they will do.
If there is,
if there is, if there is a live-action movie or movies,
keep our fingers crossed.
Exactly, because again, you can a lot can be forgiven, Disney, if you'll just do this and do it right. But if they did something like that, setting it during that time frame, you could get that bridge of a gap, and again, you would have Ewan McGregor being Obi-Wan. Yeah. And Ewan could pull it off. So maybe you could do something like that. But as it stands in this episode, it's like, and I think it's because it's like we've had the holocron transmission from Obi-Wan show up several times, and it was the Ewan McGregor kind of look, and it was the James Arnold Taylor voice.
That was another thing.
Go ahead.
That to me it didn't feel right. We had in the first of that episode when the holocron's messing up and it's repeating the stuff from James Arnold Taylor's Obi-Wan over and over and over again. You get that
voice in your head.
You get that voice stuck in your head, and when it's not the same guy, a couple of minutes later, when he actually shows
in the
up,
same,
it's wrong.
Right?
It just feels wrong. What would have been the right thing to do, and I think this goes back to what we were talking about a little bit before. If they would have gotten James Arnold Taylor to do his old Obi-Wan voice, which he can do, like, it would have felt more cohesive.
Yes, exactly. And even if someone says, well, look, I don't think that James Arnold Taylor's old Obi-Wan is as spot on as Stephen Stanton's. Again,
it's not. I'll totally agree with that. It's not. It's
I don't think Stanton's is spot on,
No.
but I do think his is closer, at least especially in certain lines, as Ewan, as James's. So, we'll concede that. But is it better to get a voice double for Alec Guinness, or to bridge the gap between those two quasi-separate characters.
With not a different guy.
Like the same guy that at the beginning is like, the Jedi Order and the Republic have fallen. Have it be the same guy. It's like, oh, you're the same. Oh, you're the wrong place, Ezra. It's like, yeah, maybe it doesn't quite sound exactly like Alec Guinness, but it sounds close enough. And it sounds like the guy from the first part of the episode.
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, that just sounds more like, it's like, so now we've got Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. We've got James Arnold Taylor, who sounds a lot like Ewan McGregor, but kind of put a little bit of his own spin on it.
And he did it more so as the show went on.
Oh, yeah.
He got more into his own thing than he started out with, because he just straight up passed for
like,
Ewan
that's
McGregor.
just Ewan McGregor, yeah. And so he made the character more kind of his own. Then we have Alec Guinness. And so we've got Ewan McGregor kind of doing a Ewan McGregor / Alec Guinness thing. We've got James Arnold Taylor doing a Ewan McGregor then Ewan McGregor / James Arnold Taylor thing. We've got Alec Guinness doing an Alec Guinness thing, and now we've got Stephen Stanton doing an Alec Guinness / Stephen Stanton / Tarkin thing.
Right. And
there's no bridging there in that moment.
Like, I mean, if anything, I think if I were the voice director for the show, I think I would have made it a point, and maybe they did, it just didn't come out right. But I think I would have made it a point, okay, we had James Arnold Taylor voicing this character for 6 years.
Yeah.
So, and we've also got to keep Ewan McGregor in mind. You are in between
all of them.
These two things. So you've got to be the one to bridge that gap. So the way you do that is you kind of sound a little bit like Alec Guinness.
And you kind of sound a little bit like Ewan / James.
Yeah.
Yep. And then he didn't do that. It seems clear
it's just straight up
it's like
Alec Guinness.
Just be Alec Guinness.
Yeah. And no.
Because he got the way that Alec Guinness was some kind of, when he started a sentence. There's like, like this kind of thing.
Right.
He got some of those mannerisms, but again, it was like all shooting for the Alec Guinness mannerisms. And it's like, y'all, are you pulling the episodes 4 and 5 and 6 is the best kind of thing to where you're running? I mean, I don't think they are because of who's involved in the show, but it's like, come on, this is a chance to do some gap bridging. Right. And again, you're just not doing it. And so for me, it pulled me out of it because I'm like, that's Tarkin walking around there. And then plus, just from a design standpoint, I wasn't crazy about it either.
I'm
like, he
didn't
capture any of them.
No, he didn't. He just looked like an old dude. Yeah. And I think that's part of what led to Liz's confusion. Because she was like, I mean, she mentioned specifically the voice, but I think she was also thinking, like, is that supposed to be Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
Like, because that kind of don't look like him
right.
either.
I mean, it's an old guy in the desert
in
Jedi robes.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. For as much as, I'll give credit to, the designers of the show and Killian Plunkett and all of them, I don't feel like when they brought live action characters or even pre-existing Clone Wars characters into the show, they have had a stellar track record of just knocking it out the park.
No.
Like, Hondo doesn't look right.
Mm-mm.
He's too roundy. It's like, I know that's supposed to be Hondo because it sounds like Hondo.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look like Hondo. I mean, he looks like a Weequay, but he doesn't look like Hondo.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got
and that's not counting for the art style.
Right.
Like, I mean, a totally different art style. Of course, he's going to look more roundy in this thing. But it's still, it doesn't even look like this show's interpretation
exactly
of the Clone Wars.
It just looks like, here's this character we've got. Exactly. Because if you think about something like, what's this, You Surely Belong Here, Lando, Calrissian, the old smoothie. Their take on Lando, I thought was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Their take on Princess Leia. What did you think about the way that Leia looked in the one episode?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like not horrible, but not knocking it out the park. And again, it's like, well, but it's a stylized show. But what's the style of the stylized show? I mean, that's the thing too. When you get right down to it, it's like, well, I don't know what. Like with Clone Wars, there was a very identifiable sort of set of variables and elements that gave the show its unique look.
Yeah,
with
the angular thing.
Yeah, angular kind of almost the early, especially influence of like the marionette kinds of shows.
Yeah. And to me, it always kind of had like, here's a CGI take on the Tartakovsky stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Right. Definitely. Which means it kind of brings in a little bit of that anime vibe.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of what Tartakovsky was sort of pulling from in a sense. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, this works. It makes sense. This show, it's like, well, it's roundy. It's just not really, to me anyway, and I am not knocking them. They're doing things I could never do.
Sure.
Abilities I don't understand. I could never have. But that having been said, without the sort of identifiable look, it's like, well, okay, I guess that kind of looks like him. Let's see. Now, Maul has been probably one of the better ones, I think, in terms of, I mean, it's not knock out the park, but it's like, it kind of works, and not just because he's got the tattoos and the horns.
Right, yeah.
There's enough of the old manner of animation, too, and that's part of it, too, is like, Hondo doesn't even move the way Hondo used to move.
No.
At least not.
No,
there's something missing there. Now let's see, Wedge. Except for the fact that Wedge looks sometimes vaguely Asian, I thought it's like I could see a little bit of Dennis Lawson in that.
Yeah.
But but then with Obi-Wan, it's like, well, yeah, it's kind of. I was looking at the hair. I'm like, that's kind of Alec Guinness's hair. It's kind of not. So again, Obi-Wan being such a big character for us, I guess it makes sense that we're going to nitpick, but it's like this again. This is the moment, and y'all been hinting about it for a while now. When you've been making a deal about it in the promos, and then it's like, oh, it's kind of Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
kind of looks like him, and he kind of sounds like the old one. Yeah. Which is to say nothing of the content, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, if Obi-Wan showing up can't bring the magic of, oh yeah, I don't know
what will.
I don't know what will. The other day, a couple weeks ago, it was a Friday night or Saturday night. I was working on something on the computer. It was not one of the weekends we were recording. Liz had fallen asleep on the couch, and for some reason, the TV ended up on the Disney Channel. I don't know if something was set to record, and one of the tuners. Anyway. And an episode of Rebels came on, and I was working on something on the computer. I actually may have been working on the animatic, the second version of the animatic where I used actual pictures.
Oh yeah,
for the game.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just stop and watch, but I was like, oh yeah, there's Rebels, and it's like they were having a little meeting with our group of Rebels, and I think Sato was there, and part of me was like, yeah. Like there was a little bit of me, and I was like, well, that's surprising.
Yeah. Because
part of me was like, yeah, I want to sit down and watch that. But it didn't last long enough for me to actually, like the next day, sit down and watch it.
Yeah.
And I know that it's like this very well could just be us, but
it could be.
But regardless of whether it's just us or whether the magic is not the same or what, the reality is that for us, we just aren't feeling it as well. So even though we have had lots of legitimate things happen that have kept us from recording our Rebels cast, the reality is that it's not like you missed episodes in which we would have been because, you said earlier, if you're not really rambunctious about a show, it's hard to get rambunctious for the episode.
Yeah, and it just it kind of bothers me that it's like, okay, anytime we talk about Rebels, it's going to be negative.
Yeah,
like, or at least it has it has more of a chance to be negative than positive, and it's like.
Who wants to listen to that?
Yeah, who wants to listen to that? It's like, I mean, I don't want to, sit there and rip something up one side and down the other all the time because I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm not enjoying it doesn't mean somebody else isn't enjoying it.
Doesn't mean it's bad.
I hope the people that are listening to this are like,
sorry you guys don't like it, but
y'all.
Dude, this is awesome.
This is a great show.
Yeah, exactly.
And more power to you.
Yeah.
I'm glad. But, for us, it's just... I don't know. It's just Star Wars in general has just started to lose its magic.
It really has
for us,
and that
is
very strange.
Very, very,
very. It's like Liz and I went over to my mom's house. Me and her and like my older sister and actually they're all older. So both my older sisters and my older brother have been going through some of we got a couple of sheds because the death in the family was my dad. He's technically my stepdad, but I always thought of him as my dad. And so my step siblings, but I've always thought of them as my siblings. But anyway, so we've been cleaning stuff out, and we found some of my old toys. And we've got Liz has set some of them up, and there's a lot of Star Wars toys over there.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of the Force Effects lightsabers, and I've got Star Wars Lego stuff. And I mean, Star Wars is like, as people are like, Nick, his thing is Star Wars. People get Nigel Star Wars stuff for his birthday when they don't know what to get because I like Star Wars,
right.
so they figure he must as well.
Right.
And so for us to be like, well, yeah, I mean, there's Star Wars.
Yeah,
it's like,
really weird.
It's not my thing anymore. Which is also, it's kind of weird. It's like, I don't have a thing.
Right.
And maybe that's part of it. It's like, I don't fictionally have a thing.
Right.
Because it's like, I ain't Star Trek.
Yeah.
Because who knows if this Discovery show is going to be worth anything. Right. I mean, they've got an Inquisitor as the captain, and that could be pretty cool. Yeah. But have you heard this crazy rumor that it's going to be like some weird interdimensional thing?
No.
Oh, goodness. Real quickly. Okay, so this might not be true. It might be true. So spoiler warning for a Star Trek show that you may not care about, folks. But so one of the rumors is that although this show is set in the prime timeline, it's still going to try to be a rebooty kind of thing in that, okay, Mark Leonard, an actor.
That's the guy who played Spock's daddy,
Played Spock's daddy, Sarek. He played a Romulan, the one and only, I believe, Romulan we ever saw on the original show. Mm-hmm. He also played a Klingon in something. Mm-hmm. Well, the rumor is that in canon, in this show, that is going to be explained as a plot point.
Why?
That all three of those characters look similar because in some way, they are all alternate versions of the same character. So there's going to be like some weird interdimensionally sort of thing.
Let's hope that's just a
I hope
rumor.
that's a silly internet rumor because it's like, do you want to break Star Trek? Because that'll do it.
Sounds like you want to break Star Trek.
Sounds like you want to break Star Trek. You want to break Star Trek? Sounds like you want to break Star Trek. So I really, really hope that is just some crazy rumor.
Yeah.
Because I still don't get why they're like, let's set it right before the original series. Like, y'all, it is 2017.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there are not fans of the original show that are still out there. My father-in-law is one of them. Yeah. I mean, I like the original show-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, I was much more a fan of the original movies.
Yeah.
But I mean, I grew up watching the original show.
Well, that's the way my dad was. Is like shortly after my mom and dad got married is when Star Trek premiered, and they watched it every week.
Right.
I mean, my mom was telling me this a couple of weeks ago. Actually, said they loved it. You were going to watch Star Trek when it came on.
Yeah.
Every time. But both of them, both my mom and my dad, have acknowledged that, the movies were way better than the original series. And I know my mom and dad both liked Next Generation much more than old Star Trek. So, I think, that a lot of the people who like the original series better are, the purists.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's still a lot of those people are still around and everything. But most people who are like our age and stuff, it's like,
they're not going to be like, dude, the original. I mean, Todd is probably more dude, the original. I mean, he certainly is than we are.
Yeah.
But he's not like Next Generation is dumb. I mean, he loved all those shows.
And that's the thing. Most people don't think that. And that's what kind of bothers me about this. And I mean, I don't really know of anyone, and I could be wrong because there's a lot of people in the world.
And I don't know most of them.
But I don't know anybody around who's necessarily like, the original series was freaking awesome and everything after that was horrible.
Yeah.
So let's get back to that old stuff.
Right.
Like, was there really a big clamoring for the original cast and everything?
Exactly.
So let's make a movie about it?
Yeah, and then now we're going to have this new show. Let's set it close to that same time period.
Yeah. It's like Star Trek had always been about, I would imagine if you asked Gene Roddenberry this, if he were still alive today, he would probably tell you Star Trek has always been about moving forward.
Right.
That's the reason they did the Next Generation. We didn't want to do anything. They had thought about continuing the old crew stuff, and they were like, yeah, that's not going to work because the scripts weren't good and things like that. But they weren't. They had actually thought about, at one point, they had thought about doing the kind of, well, basically what the first reboot Star Trek movie ended up
sort
being.
Of like the Starfleet Academy.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
how Kirk and Spock met them.
Right.
And they had thought about doing that, and then Gene Roddenberry was like, "No, we need to see what comes after this."
Yeah.
And it's like, yes,
that's what you want.
We want.
Yeah.
Like, now keep doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to know what happens in Star Trek
After
post
Nemesis.
Like,
Yep.
I mean, I don't really care. I mean, I wouldn't even want them to, let's go and do a show right before the Next Generation.
It's like, I don't want that.
I don't want that.
No.
Like, I don't care what happens right before Next Generation. I want to know what happens after Nemesis.
Yeah, exactly. Dapper Dan Man.
I'm Dapper Dan Man.
Yeah. I mean, it just, the only era where I would be like, let's go back and be like, okay, that could be cool, is an era that we know virtually nothing about. So sort of like the Enterprise
C era or something like that, yeah.
Would be,
that'd be okay.
I'm not saying set it on the Enterprise C, but something like that.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, the appeal of Enterprise was, let's see how it all kind of got started.
Yeah.
It wasn't a time frame in Star Trek lore that we knew a whole lot about.
And it was it had this neat, like, it had a neat vibe to it, because it was kind of like real world type NASA type stuff.
Yep, exactly.
And Star Trek.
That's why I loved it so
together.
much.
Yeah,
it's like you're taking two of my things and you're putting them together. That's very good. But it's like this show, it's 10 years before the original series. It's like, well, we know. I mean, I know we don't know every detail, but we know a lot about what happened here in that time frame.
Yeah.
I would much rather go to the future. So the point is that it's like, well, Star Trek ain't my thing.
Yeah, Star Trek.
Because they're not doing the Star Trek stuff in the way that I could get excited about. And maybe the show will come out and we'll love it. But so that's not my thing. I mean, what else? There's nothing new that's come out that's like, that is now my thing, because there's nothing new coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in Hollywood. It's all, let's take this book that somebody wrote and make a thing about it. Let's take this old show and make a new. So,
it's disappointing.
Yeah, we're adrift.
Because
very existential, deep stuff.
I mean, kind of like my thing now is kind of like just video game stuff.
Yeah,
and
Zelda,
and that's not something that's like I've never been a fan of this particular video game series in particular, and that's my thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, the closest you can say to that is Final Fantasy, but I think that's just because I'm a compulsive collector.
Yeah.
I have everything, or every Final Fantasy game at least, and multiple copies of most.
So take that, losers.
Right. But I'm. It's not my I don't just get super jazzed for Final Fantasy.
Here it comes, baby. Here it comes.
I don't get. I'm not a super jazzed about Mario. I'm not super jazzed about Zelda. I mean, I like those franchises a lot, but I'm not hanging Hylian shields from my room or nothing like that.
You should.
That would swords up or anything.
That'd be good. Keep you safe.
But
and see, I'm closer.
Yeah,
with those things, with the Nintendo franchises, with Zelda and Mario and Star Fox and of course Metroid. But even then, it never rose to the level of Star Wars. It was all sort of like
Star Wars is like one of the only things that like you and I can talk about and have like a deep conversation about.
Yes,
and like that is going away, and that's what's disappointing. Like, I mean, that's disappointing for me that like me and you can't talk about it like
because
that
we
anymore.
don't.
Like, all we do is end up criticizing it,
Yeah.
and it's like that gets old. Like, and I mean, I don't want to criticize Star Wars. I want to talk about Star Wars like we used to. We're like, isn't that freaking cool?
That's the coolest thing ever. Look at that. This is TIE Defender.
Right.
So yeah, it's. I don't know what it is, but. It's sad that it's like, and of course, I mean, there are things that we could still talk about. It's not like Josh and Nic ain't got nothing to talk about anymore as friends. It's like, no. But in terms of something that is like my thing and very close to his thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now we aren't going to be able to talk about it anymore because, I mean, we might, but you just never know. It's like, well, hey, there's a little bit of the thing that was cool.
Yeah.
We can talk about it. So without that, again, we can talk about video games. We can talk about movies and TV shows. There's all kind of. We will be fine, but that was a thing that we could really just and now we just
don't anymore. I mean, and that's not to say that we like won't be continuing to watch things, and it's not like we're like new Star Wars movie is going to come out and we're not going to go see it.
It is dead to me.
I mean, but you look at Rogue One, like, and we talked about this, like on the last Rebels cast, we saw Rogue One like the week after it came out,
and we were like, man, I can't believe we waited this long. It's been killing us.
Yeah, it's the first Star Wars movie that we have ever seen that's actually come out in our lifetimes, or at least come out at an age where we could actually go see it without having somebody take us to it. Like, it's the first one that's ever been released that we did not go see on opening day. That includes the Clone Wars movie.
Oh, yeah. We were there that Friday with bells on.
That's right.
I was like, that's tight.
And, I mean, we liked Rogue One.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
But it still, wasn't, we weren't just, jazzed to see it or anything.
And the magic bits that were there were, hey, that's that guy from the movie. And look, that was clever how they did that. And then, oh my goodness, Anakin.
Right.
Yeah. And then, okay, that's why there's a small thermal exhaust port right next to the main port.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that kind of stuff. It wasn't. And again, I liked some of the new characters, but the magic was in those callbacks.
Right.
And whereas in episode 1, the magic wasn't just in the callbacks.
No, it was in the fact that it was brand new.
It's brand new Star Wars. And in episode 2, same thing. It's like the magic's not in the callbacks. The callbacks were cool, but it was in the thing. And then episode 3. Oh, episode 3. Episode 3, y'all. But in episode 3 did even more of the callback stuff. I mean, you had the Tantive and you had, the twins being born and all that stuff. But it's like, it was wedding and marrying and intertwining the old magic callbacks with the new magic stuff. And that's all that movie.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's like we watched episode Rogue One. Episode Rogue One, we watched that one and it was like, yeah, I liked it. But we're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then, so we'll still watch Star Wars and might get excited about stuff. Yeah. Now, if they decide to make an Obi-Wan movie starring Ewan McGregor, we'll be there opening midnight. Like, Star Wars is back! Star Wars is back! Because it's funny, and maybe we've talked about this, and maybe our audience is like, well, duh, guys, once I say this, but it's like, it's almost like Star Wars is doing the same thing Star Trek is doing. They're appealing to the old people who are the generation before us. It's like the focus now is like, let's make a young Han Solo movie. Let's make movies episode 7 that's basically rehash of episode 4. Let's make Rogue One. Yeah. And it's like, where's the love for the people who love the prequels?
Right.
And the same way with Star Wars, it's like, we're going to make these JJ movies, and it's an alternate version of Scotty and Marty. Not Marty. Scotty and Spock and Bones
Great
and
Scotty.
McCoy. And what?
Great Scotty.
Great Scotty. There you go, Scotty and Marty. Great Scotty. It's Scotty. He's alive. He's Scottish.
He's a Lego.
But he's alive.
Oh, Doc and Marty. Marty's next to the dock.
That's right.
He's a Lego, but Marty's next to the dock.
That was good stuff. Y'all didn't know about that.
Yeah, y'all don't know about that.
It was funny.
It
It happened
happened
earlier. Happened today. Yeah, but so it's like, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, so we're going to make the original series, and then this new show that's going to be set during the time of the original series or right before. It's like, where's the love for the people that like Next Generation?
Yeah.
And DS9 and maybe Voyager and Enterprise. Same kind of thing. You're peddling and not peddling. That's not the word. It's not panhandling. You're not placating. I want to say it starts with a P.
Pandering.
Pandering. You are pandering, pandas. You are pandering to the segment of the fan base that I can understand and am kind of in, but not am as much in.
Right.
So maybe that's part of it.
Could be.
A young Han Solo movie. Okay. Young Obi-Wan in the desert movie. Yes.
Right.
It's just like Rex. Rex shows up. I'm like, yay, Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's not just nostalgia. Because the character of Rex was invented in 2008. Or at least that's when we first saw the character.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was what, 9 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
I was 30.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, I grew up with Rex.
No.
It's like, no, that character was 9 years ago. And it's like, yes, I know they've got the nostalgia. We did the Clone Cast and all that. But still, it's like, Rex feels as much a part of Star Wars to me as Luke Skywalker does.
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
But Kanan doesn't, even though I like him.
Yeah.
Hera doesn't. I don't know. So I guess we're going to talk about the episode itself for a minute. So it begins, or do we want to do the email?
Let's do the well, hold on.
Okay.
See what it's a very long email.
Long email.
Okay, let's do the email after we talk about the episode.
All right, then.
Because we probably won't have a lot that we haven't already covered in the episode.
That's true. So it begins with Tatooine. Mm-hmm. And Darth Maul walking through the desert. Yeah. And he's talking to himself. And it's Sam Witwer. And I think I said something to you about Sam has just been phenomenal as Maul ever since he started being Maul. Yeah. And that held true here. Yeah. I mean, just did a great job. And so he's wanting to find Kenobi, right? So the thing is, it's like, you think about all that Darth Maul has been through. Mm-hmm. You think about all that he did, of course, episode 1, and then when he showed back up in the Clone Wars, and the history that he's got with Obi-Wan. And I know we've alluded to this already, and we're going to talk about it more in a minute, but, as this was beginning, and he's like, is he here? Will I find him? It's like, again, I'm expecting big stuff. Yeah. It's like, and for the end of this story, that all this stuff has happened, is like, he shows up at the campsite, he says a couple things, and gets killed. Yeah. In like 3 minutes. Yeah. It's like all of that for 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, after we watched it, as I was thinking about it, I was like, I wonder if they're going or if they went for a Kill Bill thing. Yeah. Because, like, spoilers on Kill Bill, movie you should have seen many, many years ago.
Unless you're too young, in which case you shouldn't have seen it.
Right. But, in those two movies, Uma Thurman is, going to kill Bill.
Hits the title of the movie.
For wronging her. All right. There's this huge, long scene at the end of the second movie, because you haven't seen the second one, right?
Correct.
Like, there's this huge, long scene between her and David Carradine, and it's freaking awesome. Mm. And they're, like, nice to each other, and they're just, like, conversating real well and everything. And there's a kid in the room, which turns out to be the two of them's kid. And she eventually leaves, and when she leaves, they start talking to each other a little bit more aggressively. And they're getting ready to fight. And it's building, and it's building, and it's building, and it's building, and then all of a sudden, boom, she just kills him. Like, they don't even fight.
Right.
She just like, boom. She does this thing called the, the 5-point palm technique or something like that, where she whacks him like 5 times like this and like a star shape around his heart, and then hits him like that, and it kills him. And it's just like it's just over. Yeah. And it's like, I was kind of wondering, wonder if that's what they were going for. We've been building this story about Maul and Obi-Wan for a long time. When it finally happens, it's really not that climactic. Right. Like anticlimactic, if you will.
Sort of a death proof. Yeah. They pull him out, they start to beat him, they jump, it's it. It's over. That movie was awesome. That's great.
Got 100% death proof.
Got 100% death proof. Anyway.
But yeah, I wonder if that's what they were going for.
Maybe. I mean, and there's some artistic, merit to that kind of an idea. But because this is so episodic, it's like,
that's where it kind of loses its momentum, and it's just placed there. Boom. Here's the part where Obi-Wan's going to kill Maul.
Yeah. There was no build up. Right. Immediately preceding that. Right. Yeah. So it kind of makes it that disjointed. But so we get that, and then we cut to Ezra. Ezra is on the Ghost, and the holocron starts giving again bits of the recording of the speech that Obi-Wan changed the beacon to. Mm-hmm. So again, every time that something like this happens, there's a little bit of that. It's like, part of me's like, is Dave like, I'm sorry, James, I'm sorry we didn't get you here. We're gonna play a little bit of your voice, James. Here's a little bit of your voice, play it, James.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I may not be, but it's like, and every time it happens, I'm like, yay, James. Yay, Obi-Wan. Yay. But so he's like afraid that maybe Kenobi's in trouble. And so they're talking about it. And this part I did like, again, because it was a callback to Magic Times. When Rex says something about how, look, there's no one, in the galaxy that wants Obi-Wan to be alive more than me, or something like, I'm just as much as anybody else, but he's not. Bail Organa even told us, which is interesting that Bail told them that. It makes sense.
Yeah,
that he would, if Luke's existence needs to be kept secret, if Obi-Wan is going to be watching over Luke, then maybe the best thing to do is for no one to think that Obi-Wan is still alive. Yeah. Although clearly that's not a lie that Bail Organa told everybody, because, spoiler alert, Rogue One, Mon Mothma knows that he's still around, or at least that there's a Jedi friend of his that's still around. Because technically maybe she doesn't know that it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Right. But she knows there's a Jedi, and of course, clearly Princess Leia does, because she sends the message to help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, your mom help. Right. So it could be, but so I thought that was kind of a nice moment, again, just from a those characters have history together standpoint. But so Ezra goes to Tatooine. Turns out Chopper is in the A-Wing with them, and so that's cool. Ezra's all right with that. They go down to the planet. He uses the Dungeons and Dragons dice. Yeah. Which is like, that boy's walking through the desert with just some glow-in-the-dark Dungeons and Dragons dice. That seems a little bit dumb. And Josh is like, yeah, it's just some D4s right there. Josh adding the nerd level, level up there by naming the particular type of dice. But that's what it is. So they're going through the desert with a horse with no name and Dragon Ball dice, but just Dragon's dice. And there's kind of these visions of Maul speaking, and he's like, draw him out, your suffering and such will lead him out. He'll care about that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. They get part of the way through the desert, and like Chopper's batteries go out. Yep. And
Chopper gets busted.
That's right. And at one point Liz is like, they not know he's a robot. It's not like somebody died. Yeah, he's just a robot. Y'all just fix him, right? I'm like, well, yeah. I think his batteries are just empty. Yeah. And so Ezra passes out, and really, this is the episode. So then Ezra passes out. He wakes up, and he's at the little campsite there in the desert, and Chopper's getting a charge from one of them little chargey lantern-looking things, which is cool. And there's Obi-Wan. Yep. He's like, you're in the wrong place. And then Obi-Wan's like, yeah, Darth.
Ezra Bridger.
Ezra Bridger, that's right, because I know your name. And he's like, what?
I guess Yoda told him, because Yoda's talked to him, so I guess.
Oh, that's him. That's Ezra Bridger. He's going to have to die. I mean, really, it's like, are Yoda and Obi-Wan thinking, yeah, but of course, they're not the chosen one, so I guess Ezra and his master are going to have to buy the farm. Not us, though. We're in hiding. We're important. We have contractual obligations. Say we're going to be in the next movies. So take that, Ezra Bridger. But anyway, so somehow Obi-Wan knows who he is, and also knows this whole backstory. And he's like, yeah, he's like, oh, Darth Maul, misled you. He used your desire to do good to make you do dumb things. You already know this. Everybody's told you it multiple times. But I thought, hey, we're out here in the desert. Might as well tell you the same thing too. So it turns out you're kind of dumb, but you'll have good feelings, but they could be made to serve the bad guy. I'm going to say something like that a little bit later to somebody else. I need to let me write that down. I need to work on it though. It needs to flow a little bit better. Maybe the Empire. When I say the word Empire, it sounds good. So I'm going to use something with the word Empire. Something. Hold on. I'm just making a couple of notes. I'll figure it out later and get it completely done. But let me put it in my pocket right here. That's good. Okay, where was I? Oh yes, you're stupid. So why do you let him do this to you? I don't know. Who are we talking about? Oh, that guy. And then Darth Maul shows up. Right there. And Ezra's like, I'm going to get out of here. Actually, I don't remember. Did Ezra watch the whole thing? I don't even remember.
I don't remember what happened.
I remember what happened. Obi-Wan's like, so you should go home. Because Maul shows up. He's like, ha, 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 I'm Darth Maul. And Obi-Wan's like, okay, because Ezra was something about like he's going to fight you, and he's like, oh, I don't want to fight him. I was going to read him poetry, but I'm not going to. And so then when he shows up, he's like, get out of here. We're going to fight. We're fighting and go back inside. So he puts him on the dude back. He's like, you need to go home where you belong.
Yeah. And
so he goes off, and then Maul's like, Kenobi, let's fight. And he's like, okay, we'll fight. Really, but he did his old school stance.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And the IGN reviewer's like, I thought it was really cool because he did that. And he's like, I'm too old for this. Let me take a more Alec Guinness stance. I'm like, it could be that. Yeah. I just thought maybe it was, an attempt to bridge by having him do that. And then he's like, I'm going to hold it two hands because you can't hold it one hand.
The thing is, did Alec Guinness ever hold a lightsaber like that? Because I don't think he did.
What, like this? Or
the two-handed, like, to the side
No,
thing.
Not really.
No, it was straight out in front of him and waved it around like a broom.
Right. It just wasn't this. It wasn't the two-finger thing.
Yeah.
So... But it's like, okay, so we're going to fight. And it's like, oh, yeah, here we go. And the lightsaber spins up, and then one slice.
Yeah.
And at first, it's like, oh, he cut his lightsaber in half.
Yeah, but then he's like, oh, he killed him.
Oh, apparently he's dying. Apparently Darth Maul's life was tied to that lightsaber. I put my force in that. And so... and I did read on the IGN review where there's like, that was a little unclear. I know they can't be too graphic, but they could have been a little bit more graphic. I'm like, yeah, because you don't know that it's happened. Because in episode 1, when he does it, there's at least he kind of makes the poop face, and there's the blood fizz, in the air, and then he falls into two pieces. You're like, okay, clearly he's dead. Although it turns out he ain't.
Yeah,
this was just like, oh no, and it's like, oh, is he sad that he cut his lightsaber in two? Oh, he got him.
Yeah.
So then this part was cool, but it's like, it's one of those things that could have been more.
Yeah, I
agree. Where
then
Maul kind of like, I'm like, Obi-Wan kind of holds him. And they actually talk about, they don't call him Luke by name, but because Maul had already figured out that Obi-Wan's not just here hiding, he's doing something, he's protecting someone.
Yeah.
And so he asks, and we're going to talk about this for a second. He asks him, he's like, is it the chosen one? And Obi-Wan's like, oh, yes. It's the chosen one.
It's him.
That's him. And Maul is like, he will avenge us. And again, I thought that was neat, that it's like, it does show that Darth Maul felt betrayed by everybody.
Yeah.
They're like, that some of what he said to Ezra back when he first started duping him about we need to destroy the Sith together and you can use this Sith stuff to do it, probably was true because he wasn't a fan of Palpatine. He wasn't a fan of Anakin. He felt betrayed by them. So I think there was some legitimacy or some sincerity to what he had been doing back then. And thus, when he says, they will avenge us, there is some sense in which he feels some solidarity with Obi-Wan because they have both been mistreated by the dark side. Yeah. But the fact that he's like, they will avenge us, when of course revenge is not the Jedi way. So it's like he dies still confused.
Right.
But, Obi-Wan, and the IGN reviewer pointed this out, and it's there, but it's kind of there by it not being there. He's like, he was saying that it seems like Obi-Wan sort of had sympathy and compassion on him, and it's like, well, he did in the sense that he wasn't like, Darth Maul, you're a duty head, and I've been waiting to kill you
you're dead.
for so many years. Take that, have fun in the bad place with Han Solo, because he'll see you there.
Right.
If his Tauntaun doesn't make it to the first marker, might freeze first. You never know. But he doesn't do that, so it's like, well, yeah, I guess in that sense. And he does close his eyes, after he dies. And so there's that. But it's one of those things of, man, explore that a little bit more. I get talk.
Yeah, they didn't talk enough.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Darth Maul, if only you had listened, or, something like that, well, you could have changed your ways.
One of the things,
or even to be like, I guess they can't. They can never change that. I mean, that could have been a perfect moment for Obi-Wan to get a little bit of that sense of, yeah, I should never expect Anakin to ever come back because Darth Maul felt betrayed and this, that, and the other, and he didn't come back. So he's more machine man now, the man twisted and evil, and all that stuff could have been. There's a moment here when that could have been sort of shown a little bit and highlighted, but it wasn't.
And there was not one mention of Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Because, like I told Nick after the episode was over, I mean, like, Qui-Gon is kind of the crux for this whole thing. Like, the reason they have been at odds with each other.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he killed Obi-Wan's master. Obi-Wan got mad.
Cut him in half.
Cut him in half. So, I mean, there could have been at least something.
Yeah.
But there was nothing.
And then Anna call out to Satine.
Right.
I mean, Maul could have been like, I took away your master and I took away, your love. Mm-hmm. And you took away part of my body, but I'm here and I have searched for so many years and I will have my revenge. Something like that.
Something.
And I mean, Obi-Wan could have been like, I forgive you, Darth Maul. I mean, it could have been something like that, let it go or something like that. I mean, he could have been like, he could have even tried to say, it's not too late. You can reject, they've rejected you, you can reject them. I mean, something, they could have talked more. Yeah. Like you said.
Now, we should also talk about the mistake that we made.
Yes.
Or the potential mistake that we made. We don't really know.
Right.
But when Darth Maul asks Obi-Wan about the, is it the chosen one that you're protecting?
Yeah.
And he's like, it is. Like, Nick and I both were like, nope.
Anakin is the chosen one. Anakin is the chosen one. Not Luke Skywalker. And Dave Filoni, you ought to know that.
Yeah.
And then about 30 seconds went by.
Yeah, and then you pointed out.
I was like, yeah, but at this point, Anakin has basically been given up on by Obi-Wan. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan, I mean, he's Darth Vader. He's been Anakin was destroyed. The good man who was your father was destroyed. Mm-hmm. He already has given up on him. So he wouldn't say that Anakin's the chosen one.
And you would think he would carry on his mentality from the end of episode 3. You were supposed to be the chosen one.
Right.
Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness.
Yeah, so it's like, it can't be you. but they're watching over the kids. Mm-hmm. Hoping that they'll be. Yeah. So
because that's the thing. I mean, you still got to think too that Obi-Wan still believes, and probably Qui-Gon's told him straight up.
There is a chosen one.
Yeah, there is a chosen one.
There will be a chosen one. It will be significant. This is good for both of us. Oh no. At least it wasn't Betty quotes. See, we're not getting all into the Betty quotes.
Yeah, but I mean, you would think he would talk.
He still believes in the prophecy because
absolutely, because Qui-Gon did.
Yeah,
so yeah, he knows that something's going to happen, and hopefully it'll be out of. Since it wasn't Anakin, it'll be
maybe it's going to be his kid and his boy kid in particular, not his girl.
Nope, Qui-Gon was right the whole dang time.
Exactly. But so I was like, but if you really think about it, at this point, since Obi-Wan doesn't really believe Anakin can ever come back, he wouldn't believe that Anakin's the chosen one, even though we know he is. He wouldn't believe it. Yeah. So yeah, actually, what Obi-Wan says there makes perfect sense. At this point in time, Obi-Wan would believe that it's Luke. So I apologize, Dave Filoni.
Right.
So that's what happened. So Dave, we were like, oh, Dave. And then we're like, oh, wait, no. Oh, us.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's just that desire for Obi-Wan to be perfect.
Right.
Like, Obi-Wan don't make mistakes. But hey, gotta admit, episodes 4, 5, and 6, he's like, oh, he's too far gone. Too evil to be the chosen one. So, yep. And then, let's see, we cut back to Ezra, and he's like, I'm home, and like, okay. They said something. I wasn't paying attention to that point. I'm like, because that's when we were talking about, ain't the chosen one. Yeah. Wait, yeah. He wouldn't think it's, he'd be wrong. So, yeah. And then it cuts back to Obi-Wan, and this was pretty cool.
It was cool.
Like, he looks out and he sees, Aunt Beru's like, look.
And he does the same thing from episode 3, kind of strokes his beard when he's watching it.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So, yeah.
And you see little Luke there, far off in the distance running home. Mm-hmm. And then the Force theme plays over the closing credits.
Yep.
Again, Mr. Kevin Kiner still holding down the anchor with the music. Mm-hmm. And that was the episode.
Yep.
Obi-Wan's going to be in Rebels. He's going to say like 5 things, and he's going to have one slice on Maul. They're not going to talk much. That's going to be it. Yep. That does not give me my Obi-Wan face.
No.
I'm going to need 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, at least 1 live-action Obi-Wan movie, Disney, in order to get my fix.
Yep.
So you need to do it. I know that this book is a Legends book now, and I haven't even finished it. Mm-hmm. But from what I have read of it, the book Kenobi, that came, it was like the last EU book before the EU became Legends.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. If they made that into a movie, because it's kind of got a Western vibe, which works perfectly on Tatooine. It's a great idea. I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah. So like it's because again the whole premise is he's not going to be go gallivanting across the galaxy because he's got to watch Luke. Yeah. But he can't help but get involved in trying to help the people around about him. Yeah. But the rumors,
well, and apparently, you would think Obi-Wan is kind of at least on Tatooine there, maybe at least a little bit of a popular guy. Yeah. Because Uncle Owen tells Luke, that wizard's just crazy old man. Like, so
everybody knows about the old wizard guy.
Well, I mean, even Luke knows about him, knows about old Ben. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how does he know about him? Yeah. I mean, has he done something on Tatooine that, kind of drew a little bit of attention to him? And he's like, oh, okay, nope, got to go back to my cave in the desert.
That's right. This won't work. Actually, it'd be more like, oh, this won't work. I need to go over there. Be alone for some more time. But yeah, exactly. I mean, people know about it. Yeah. So there's got to be something going on there. But now I don't know if this is rumor or if this has been sort of confirmed by Disney, but apparently the young Han Solo movie is going to have a bit of a Western vibe. But given that presumably Han Solo isn't stuck on a desert planet, maybe it can have a spacefaring Western vibe.
Yeah. Like, I supposedly it's a heist movie.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So, I mean, space heist.
Yeah, space heist, Western, robbing a Pine City stage.
Yeah. Regardless, don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Although I do think that casting, I like the skateboard as Lando is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
I like that, but... Oh, and Woody Harrelson's in it.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where it's like, am I going to be like, that's just Woody Harrelson. I mean, we're just going to like suck me right out the moon. We're like, Woody Harrelson. It's just Woody Harrelson, y'all. I'll admit, though, I was wondering about that with Sam Jackson, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen, no.
I mean, maybe the very first time, like, that I saw the trailer.
Oh, that's Jules.
Yeah, that's right. It's like Julius. I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be a Jedi. Maybe the first time, but it's like by the time I saw the movie, I was like, "Oh, it's good. That's Mace Windu. He's cool." So maybe I'll be okay with Woody Harrelson, but on the other hand, what's the one movie where he plays like a gay guy?
Oh, Friends with Benefits?
Yeah. And because that's the most recent Woody Harrelson role
that's what
I've
you
seen,
think of?
that's what I'll think of. So it's just like, and because he's so like, I love sports and I love dudes. And it's like, just the idea of like, will that be what I think of? Right. It's like, that's funny. I don't know what to do with that. So, but yeah, maybe it'll be good.
He was really good in the Hunger Games movies.
Yeah.
So...
Well, he was good for his benefits.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much
a random character.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much good in everything he's in. He's got a very wide range.
He does.
But just thinking about, Woody from Cheers,
exactly,
is going to be in Star Wars. That's weird.
That's just very strange. Which is funny because I'm all like, I think it's cool that I like the skateboard's going to be in it. It's like, but I like the skateboard. Come on, don't you? But it's different. It's Woody. Not
Donald Glover, by the way.
Yes, Donald Glover. Thank you. Not Danny Glover.
Not Danny Glover.
And not Burt Bacharach.
Not Burt Bacharach.
Either, because they're different people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So give me an Obi-Wan movie to make myself feel better. Yeah. So interestingly enough, this was not the season finale.
No.
Because the season finale is next week. It's a 2-parter. And it's this big attack on Lothal. There is going to be, boring, I'm sort of high... What's his name? Thrawn. Thrawn's going to be in it. Ezra's going to. Yeah, that is a painting of that woman there when she was a girl. Oh, shut up! He's so smart. Ezra's going to have to go get help from some unexpected source. We wonder if that's going to be Callus, which I will say that is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Like, that's a neat idea. I think it's like they made him really interesting by actually having him do what I have a soft spot for.
Yeah.
Taking the bad guy and making him good.
Right.
And to go back to watch like the first episode and be like, this agent, he's callous. He's going to be a good guy. That's cool.
Yeah.
So maybe it's going to be him. You know, Wedge showed up in an episode recently.
Yeah. I heard about that.
So maybe Wedge is happening at the same time.
Wedge is happening.
So I don't know. So who knows what it's going to be, but yeah. So I haven't seen every episode with Thrawn in it, but I got to say I think Thrawn to me has been a disappointment.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, Thrawn, quite frankly, as much as we've talked crap on the EU and stuff, like, I thought Thrawn was a pretty good character in the Timothy Zahn books.
Yeah, especially in the original Heir to the Empire trilogy. Good stuff.
And I don't really think his Rebels version is
not
quite matching up to that.
And I know part of it, it's a show that is more directly aimed at young people.
Sure.
And it's only like 20 minutes long per episode. Yeah. You can't do as much. You can't get into a sort of a complex kind of deal in just one episode. But still, I mean, really, his insights have been... The guy that was busted out of prison might go back to where he worked. And that would be bad if the rebels that busted him out took him to where he worked, because we build stuff there. Maybe we ought to lock the doors on that factory. Oh, and that painting of that girl is that woman right there. And what was the other one? It was like, Thrawn, calm down with your brilliance.
I can't remember.
It was so mind blowing we don't even remember it.
Yeah.
I did think the one interesting addition, although I don't know how much it fits with what was the EU version of Thrawn, was in the episode with the Kalorika Kolikori, doodly bow thing that she had to go get from her house, Hera did.
Yeah.
There's that point when he's talking to the Imperial guy, which again they always put him with the idiot Imperials, but they're walking the two of them down the hall, and the Imperial says something about the art being stupid or something like that, and Thrawn gets mad at him and like shoves him up against a wall or something.
Yeah.
You need to, and then he kind of calms down. It's like, well, that's an interesting wrinkle.
Yeah,
that it's like he's an art snob.
Yeah,
and he's such an art snob that he gets mad about it. That it's like the
Yeah.
I'm more cultured than you people, and if you don't like it, you're dumb.
Right.
It's like, well, that's kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
a little looking down your nose at everybody kind of thing. But except for that,
Like, it would be nice to see, like, maybe another movie. Maybe even like make an unrelated Star Wars movie to anything in the rest of the saga. Like, and stick it somewhere between episodes 3 and 4, and maybe have Thrawn be the bad guy of that.
Yeah,
like that.
And make
might
him
be
cool.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
and make him not talk like this.
Yeah, because he makes
That just doesn't strike me as calculating and on top of things.
no, it's high.
It's just high.
He's
Yes,
high.
he's on drugs. That blue man is on drugs. He's not like, they'll be here. If you look, I'm telling you, this is, that's kind of how I pictured him. Cold, calculating maybe, but not like this. We need to go here and we need to go there now. They will be found. We will do this. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, what else can we complain about? I don't know.
So how about at this point it's time for emails.
Email coming at you. Email from me to you.
So we have a single email
Okay.
from Hugh Janus.
An email from Hugh Janus.
And it is dated March the 5th, so not too long ago.
It's not too long ago.
And he talks about several things in this email. It's very long, but we'll get through it. He says, it's been a while since I sent fan email, so this one may be a bit packed.
Hey, Hugh, it's all right. It's been a long time since we recorded an episode, so
Right.
it works out fine.
He said, much like Hardwired to Self-Destruct, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is finally here. That's
yes.
right. If you guys have played it already, what are your thoughts on the new formula? One of the two comparisons I've heard so far is that it's reminded some people of either Dark Souls Bloodborne or Dark Souls / Bloodborne or the Elder Scrolls. Personally, I enjoyed the quick loading times instead of having to wait long and become immersed with the game. I also like how it feels like a combination of the old Zelda with the new Zelda games. It has those 3D Zelda game elements, but it also has that bit where you start the game in the middle of a field with an old man and the excitement of starting a game without context and an open world with enemies in all directions. Like, I'm sure Hugh sent this before.
Right.
We did our Breath of the Wild thing, but we can reiterate again. Yes.
Mm-hmm. All that you said.
All that you said is good.
Yes.
And we like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's got that open world feel. I'm not as familiar with Dark Souls, Bloodborne,
Really, where it seems that it draws inspiration a little bit from those games is the combat system.
Okay.
Because, the combat system in that game is a little bit more in-depth, or at least it's not just like, move kind of slightly out of the way to avoid attacks and then run up and hit it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little bit more involved because now you've got the, what do they call it? There's a name for the mechanic, but basically the thing where if you the perfect dodge type thing.
Right. The flurry rush or fury rush.
Yeah, something like that. And, it goes into kind of the bullet time thing. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't happen in Dark Souls, but you have stuff in Dark Souls like parry, like where you can take like a shield parry, where they hit you and you throw the shield out and it like knocks their weapon away.
Right.
And, Breath of the Wild also has that because it also has the shield parry thing,
right?
But there are ways like you to dodge attacks at the perfect moment, and then you get a big reward for being able to do that.
Right?
You can just sit there and kind of dodge out of the way at the wrong time or whatever, and still avoid the attack and get in there and knock them around a couple times, but.
You're rewarded for
you get a lot more damage and a lot more hits at once.
Gotcha.
Uninterrupted and stuff. So it draws a lot more from Dark Souls in that sense than probably any other gameplay mechanic. But probably the rest of it definitely draws more from the Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah, and I don't have the game yet, but I played or watched Josh play a lot of it. Not a lot of it relative to the entire length of the game, but
no,
not by any stretch. But I've seen a decent amount of gameplay, and that this sort of idea that here you are, go, and you've got 3D modern Zelda elements, but almost like put back into the vessel of the original game. Mm-hmm. It's like let's take some of these innovations and let's put it back into that original formula of go.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there will be elements of modern Zelda games pre Breath of the Wild that I will miss in Breath of the Wild. In terms of maybe the way the story plays out. I know it's a good story.
Yeah, it is. I like it.
and I'm excited about that.
But it is kind of thing, Anuma had said the thing about like the story is completely optional.
Right.
Like you don't have to pay attention to it at all. And that's very true. I kind of wish it was forced on you a little bit more.
And that's kind of what I'm wondering.
Yeah. But if you go and seek it out, it's actually really good.
Very nice.
It's still the same basic formula. Got to save Princess Zelda from Ganon who wants to destroy Hyrule.
Yeah.
It's that same thing. But the way it's done, in my opinion, and some people, in fact, like the Dark Pixel guys, the main one that's like all into story is Mike, and he was like, he said it was okay, but it's nothing special and everything. I personally don't agree.
Yeah,
I think it's done really well, and I've never played Skyward Sword, and you said that the story in that one's really good.
Yeah,
but this to me is the best told Zelda story ever.
Nice,
but it could change if I played Skyward Sword.
Yeah,
but.
So it's like you've got all those great elements. There will probably be some things that I'll miss, and again, big epic music and the overworld, the field is probably one of them. But I'm still very much excited about it, and I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, yeah, maybe the next one they can incorporate some of the things that I missed, but they need to keep going with this.
Yeah, and you're talking about the length of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The Switch keeps record of how long you've played a game.
Yeah.
I have played Breath of the Wild for 65 hours.
Wow.
I just beat the third, like, dungeon-type boss thing that you're supposed to do before you fight Ganon. I just beat it, and at 65 hours in.
Wow.
I mean, of course, I've been doing a lot of side quests and going off and exploring and trying to find this thing and that thing.
But that's part of the game.
That's part of the game. And, you know, apparently there are people online who have beaten the game in an hour doing the thing going straight to Ganon.
Right.
After I beat the game, I want to watch and see how those people are doing that.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, I don't know how much is, like, I know pretty much the next thing that I have to do is go beat Ganon. But I don't know how many hours I'm going to put in before I go and do that.
Right.
Like, I may beat it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. But, I mean, there's still plenty of stuff to explore and do that I haven't even touched yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I love it. It has surpassed A Link to the Past for me.
Wow. So
it
that is
my favorite Zelda game.
It is your number one Zelda
made.
game.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I love it. He says, I really enjoy the unhinged feel of the game. Like the debut game, this one allows you to explore nearly all the areas, with the main restriction being the person's skill level or their lack of the superhuman power of speedrunning a video game.
That's right.
There didn't exactly seem to be a traditional tutorial stage to the game like some of the modern games. That's very true. So I'm interested in seeing all the different ways Let's Players start their version of Link's Adventure.
Yeah.
If there was one thing that might take some getting used to, it would probably be the voice acting. It doesn't exactly take me out of the game. I'm just so used to gibberish speaking characters. This is either way, I'm excited to see the rest of the game and explore for as many hours as I can, or I'm allowed to. The voice acting for me, like, I personally wish they would have taken it to the next level.
Right. Like more.
Yeah, I wish all of it was voice acted, but instead you have the really important scenes are voice acted, and then the rest of it is the kind of gibberish Zelda talk. Yeah. So,
Hey!
yeah, that kind of stuff. I'm fine with that. It doesn't take away my enjoyment of the game.
Right.
But I would have liked it to have been completely voice acted. Now, a lot of people have criticized the voice acting pretty hard. Like, have you heard the stuff people have talked about the girl that voices Zelda?
No, I mean, I've heard that there are criticisms, but I haven't heard specifics.
I don't get them.
Yeah.
Like, I think Zelda sounds great. I think she's a great voice actress.
You know how people can be.
Yeah. And I think
it's like people don't like Rebels.
I know Mike from Dark Pixel, he was talking about that what he didn't like was it seemed like a lot of the roles were miscast. Like, it's like some people look like they need to sound older than they actually are. And I guess maybe on some of those people, maybe, but like, I don't know. I mean, I've gotten used to the way all those characters sound now, so I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah. It's like that's how they sound.
But especially, Zelda probably does the majority of the talking in the game that I've seen so far. And I think she does a great job. Let's see. Now we get into Star Wars talk.
Oh.
With Season 3 of Rebels approaching the end of the line, do you think that the showdown between Old Hermit Ben Kenobi and the Phantom Lord Maul may explain why 57 years old, there's no dermatology on Tatooine? Obi-Wan's fighting style isn't as flashy as in Revenge of the Sith. The twin sons may explain Ben's elderly appearance, but not his voice. Perhaps in his exile, Obi-Wan took up the habit of smoking death sticks.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe then that would explain both the appearance and voice change from a certain canonical point of view. I wonder if they will reference the story where Owen was the hero of the day. I wonder if they will reference to the story where Owen was the hero of the day instead of Obi-Wan.
Not sure what that is.
The Rebels promo shots show...
We're such losers and don't know things.
The Rebels promo shots show the middle-aged version of Obi-Wan in his signature fighting stance. Maybe he gets wounded in the final Maul duel and can no longer fight like he used to 19 years ago.
That'd be all cool stuff.
Yeah, that's all great stuff you're
really
saying there,
be.
But
nope.
As you found out by now, none of
it didn't happen.
Unfortunately.
It explained nothing.
I'm overthinking it, but I wonder if they will also explain the time lapse between the latest Maul episode where he's all like, "You disappoint me, Bridger," and hops on his ship to yet again seek and destroy Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Seek and destroy? There's a such
He used a lot of. I wonder if he's doing this on purpose, because there's lots of Metallica song titles.
Might be.
I think he's doing that.
Are you a smart man, Hugh Janus?
Let's see. In Star Wars, it doesn't appear to be that long of a trip to travel to Tatooine. I don't know. Maybe Maul made a pit stop to Dexter's Diner and is killing time by filling up on some burgers and Jawa juice.
You want some Jawa juice? Oh, yes, thank you.
Maybe even get a Dexter's Dinner Happy Meal along the way. Dexter's Diner Happy Meal along the way. You got to collect them all, No particular reason. Just mostly for the bragging rights. A complete Dexter's Diner Happy Meal toy set is something Obi-Wan probably wouldn't have over Maul unless he was good at trading.
Look what I've got, Kenobi.
One would think after Obi-Wan left Maul broken, beaten, scarred again. Yep, definitely.
You're doing that on purpose, Hugh Janus.
That it would only fuel Maul into even more haste for revenge.
Revenge?
I thought that nothing else matters to Maul except revenge and restoring his self-confidence. So why is he so easily distracted? Maybe some Sith therapy would be in order. In Clone Wars, we already see Maul transformed into some kind of monster.
Oh, some kind of monster.
Frantic and with no remorse.
Nicely done, sir. This is good.
We learn about the struggle within Maul and that he still is able to somewhat connect to others he considers as family or friends. Or potential toy raiders. Seriously, come on. What else is taking Maul so long to get his revenge?
I need another Happy Meal.
Maul, at least I will reveal my superiority to the Jedi. At least I shall flaunt my mint condition collector's set of Dexter's Diner limited edition Happy Meal toys. Take that, Kenobi. If anything, Thrawn should probably beat Maul to that complete collection, since the Rebels version of Thrawn doesn't have to worry about some Nogri being a pain in his back and looks like the type of guy who would be into collecting everything. Jokes aside, while I still love Star Wars and forever will, in my opinion, I feel there seems to be a noticeable difference in Rebels between Dave Filoni leading at the wheel and him being near but away from it. Yep. Mm-hmm. While I feel filler, quote filler, may be used too loosely these days when it comes to shows, something about the past 2 seasons of Rebels seemed a little more organized than Season 3, in my humble opinion. Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
Totally there.
Out of curiosity, I have some music questions for you guys. Interesting.
Okay.
Since I like creating and playing my own music, do you guys find that when you write new material, that the writing phase is less stressful than when you go into the studio to start tracking? For me, I love writing new songs, but when it comes to recording them, like the Boondocks, I try to put my heart and soul into it, but the amount of unsatisfied recordings takes its toll most of the time. It gets exhausting given everything you've got into a recording only to have it not be the best potential take that it could be. Then I have to gather the same amount of passion and enthusiasm, if not more, to make the next recording take better. By the time I finish mixing it all together, I don't want to hear that song for a long time. But after enough time passes, I'm okay and feel pumped listening to it again. So my main question to you guys is, how do you cope with the stress of recording new material without losing that enthusiasm? That's kind of a weird question for me. Mm-hmm. Because I've written in 2 different ways, well, a couple different ways. It used to be the case, like when we were writing the Phoenix Down material and stuff, like sometimes like I would write a particular riff or something by myself and I would put it on tape. And then I would take it to Danny, our drummer, and then he and I would construct a song around it. Then it also got to the point where I would go to Danny and be like, hey, man, play a beat, and I'll just play something with you, and we'll just jam something out. So we'd do that, and we'd eventually construct a song, and we'd be ready to go. And then, like, to go along with what Hugh's asking here, like we would record that later. Usually when we would go to record the song, it would end up being a lot different than what we originally hashed out.
Planning on recording.
Yeah. So, and a lot of the the change would happen while we were recording it. Because, and in fact, that's something I still kind of, that's a method I still kind of use when I'm recording. I kind of purposefully change stuff up while I'm recording it to make it a little bit more fresh.
Right, to keep it new and exciting for you.
And plus, like, when you're recording, you have that freedom. Yeah. You're like, I can do whatever I want to right now. I don't have to worry about performing to hash this out or anything like that. I can sit here and I can make this one guitar part doing this thing over here. And then I can say, well, how do I want to make that a little bit interesting on the right side? Yeah. So then I do something different there, and I can, kind of.
So you're kind of still writing even as you're recording.
Yeah, even as I'm recording, yeah. And like now it's a little bit different even than that, because now like I write as I record most of the time. Like with the Anathema stuff, like I think of something in my head, like a melody or something like that, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then I'll sit down at the computer and I'll look, okay, now I just hash this out, and I just let it go where it takes me.
Right. But in that case too, when you're composing that way with like the East-West stuff, it's not performance. Right. There really is no performance, component to it.
True,
it's just the sort of the writing and the, let me tweak this here, let me modify this there. And truthfully, let me kind of be the voice of Hugh Janus for a minute, if I may. I'm the voice of Hugh Janus. Actually, I don't know why you sound like Hugh. But so when it comes to actually recording, and when you have to do multiple takes, when you're like, that didn't come out right, let me try it again. Like,
well, let's just be honest on that one. I don't have to do a whole lot of takes.
Let's talk about vocals then.
Okay, let's not. That one, that's a good way to put that. Yeah. That's hard to do. Like, really the way I cope with that is we just quit.
That's what I was thinking.
You just quit for a little bit.
When you were reading that, I was thinking, it's like, Josh is such a good guitar player that my recollection, and I haven't been involved like in there physically for the recording of majority of maybe of the stuff that you've done like on the band side, but enough to know, and plus just being in the band with you for a while and hearing you play, it's like he gets stuff pretty quickly. Yeah. He doesn't usually require a lot of takes when it comes to the guitar stuff. So he can't really relate to that. Not like, because Josh is so awesome, but he's a solid guitar player. And then I thought, but there are vocals. I know that's something that it doesn't always come just first take. And then I thought about us recording vocals.
Necessarily come the 30th
right.
take.
And then I thought about how we did it that one time and we haven't done it since then. And I'm like, maybe that's how you cope, is you just stop doing it. So I'll have to ask Josh about that if he doesn't bring that up himself.
That one's like doing vocals. I mean, that's just, there's a lot of factors involved in that. Like, I mean, your attitude has to be in the right place. You got to be motivated to do it, and like your voice has to be working properly at that given moment. Yeah, and sometimes it just doesn't. And like basically in that sense, like all the stars have got to align, and if they don't, it ain't gonna happen.
Right. And so when they're not aligning, you just say, "All right, they're not aligning right now."
Yeah,
basically,
you just quit. I mean, you can't force yourself to do that stuff because you'll produce a crap product.
Right. And then like he was suggesting, you get to where you don't like what you're working on because the struggle within. Let's see what I did, Hugh. No. Is bringing you down, and it's sort of it's diminishing the enjoyment of the whole thing.
And sometimes a good thing to do, when that starts happening, is just try something completely different. Yeah. I mean, take what you wrote and throw it out the window and be like, okay, I'm going to do this take.
Just going to do something else.
Just something totally different. Maybe, like if you're talking about vocals and stuff, maybe change the lyrics completely. Just change the way you sing it. There's a lot of different things you can do that might be able to jazz your back up into doing it.
Right, exactly. And maybe you like this new thing you wrote better, or maybe you're like, oh no, I want to go back to the original, but you've got a little bit, you've kind of got the creative juices flowing for a second there, and that kind of helps.
Well, see, back when we did the first two albums, like I would, like, and this I noticed specifically on vocals, back then we would just, when we were ready to record something, we slapped down the first thing we did and that we left it that way. But then we would play the songs live and stuff, and I would change the way I sang something.
Yeah.
Because I'd heard that song so many times in my head, and I was like, yeah, I could have done this a little bit better, and I could have sang this just a little bit differently. So I'm going to start doing that live.
Yeah.
And then I sit there and I listen to the old stuff I did, and I'm like, man, I wish I would have done that thing that I thought of like a couple of years later.
Yeah.
Like,
always tweaking. Or
always
at least
tweaking.
wanting to tweak.
Yeah.
I wonder too if you are making music with other people or if it's just you, because I would imagine that has something to do with it. I mean, even if you're trying to like with vocals, when we were trying to record the vocals and it just wasn't working that night, the fact that you still had someone else here and someone else that's excited about the music as well,
that helps.
That at least made it. I mean, again, we still were like, all right, we're done, but it maybe didn't happen as quickly, and there was still some fun stuff going on, and in the same way, like when you and Danny would sit together and hash something out,
right?
Or like I remember the one song that I was sort of involved in the arrangement of, which is a song that never made it on an official album. Watching the Tower. The three of us just sat around that night, at the sun porch, and so having other people to bounce ideas off of and to be like, dude, I like what you're doing there. Like, what you do can feed their enthusiasm can feed yours. And again, even in the recording phase, that can be a thing. So maybe if you're having to do it by yourself, because again, I know for me, I'm very much feedback oriented. Where it's like
Nick will write something and he will send me 18 million versions of it and be like, what do you think about these? Like, well, I like version 17,532,000.
I'm like, oh, okay. And part of it's because I'm indecisive. I'm like, well, I don't know which one I like better. They're like with writing, and they're like with like fiction writing. It's like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Josh is like, I don't let anybody hear stuff. Like, at least with your new, like East West stuff, you're like, until it's pretty far along.
Yeah.
And so, people have different kind of approaches on it. But for me, it's like, and this is something that, I mean, going back to X-Geyser.
Yeah.
Music writing, same kind of thing. I'd write part of a song and I'm like, I'd let Josh hear it. And Josh is like, dude, you need to keep working on that. Yeah. And that level of his excitement made me excited enough to keep going. And it continues to this day. There's a game that theoretically we might make at some point. It's going to be kind of a shoot 'em up kind of game, like a Gradius-ish kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the main theme for the game was co-written by Josh and me.
Right.
Josh had written a theme and let me hear it. And I liked it. And then I was just, a few weeks later, whatever, fiddling around on the computer and kind of started to write something. I just let Josh hear it, be like, what do you think? I mean, this is kind of work in progress. So I don't know, I'm just writing it. And he's like, that's good. You ought to keep working on that. And then at some point you're like, maybe you ought to put that in the shmup. Like maybe that could be a shmup thing with the game. And so I was like, okay. And so, because you were excited about it, I kept working on it and then combined, what you had written with what I'd written. And I'm fairly pleased with how that turned
really
out. But if I had been left to my own devices without someone to either bounce ideas off of or just get some response from, it might not have progressed to that point. So it's like, I'm still that way.
Yeah.
I've been that way for a long time, still am. And so, we all have different kinds of ways of getting our mojo.
I mean, that's happened with me, several times, even on the Anathema soundtrack. Like, I've sent you stuff that, like, I was just like, I don't know if I like this
I'm
or
like,
not.
dude, this is sweet.
Yeah. And it makes me kind of be like, okay, maybe I can tweak that a little bit and make it a little bit better than it is. So, yeah, I mean, having somebody to bounce stuff off of, I mean, that helps a ton. Especially, and another thing is people you trust musically.
Yeah.
That has a big key factor
part of it,
in the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, like I trust, there's two people on this entire planet that I trust, musically, and that's you and Danny.
Yeah.
And then like after that, I don't tend to listen to what people say, and maybe that's to my detriment. I don't know.
I don't know. Danny and I have good taste, so that's all you need.
And you do. I mean, and then the thing is, it's like Nick's got an ability that I do not have, and that's I mean, he understands music theory and how that stuff works, and he can tell mathematically if something's good or not, or if something works or not, and Danny, is just like Danny's more of the feel oriented person, and I mean, I don't go to Danny really. I don't go to Danny any on the Anathema stuff because orchestral music and stuff is not really Danny's thing.
Yeah,
but like when we were writing Phoenix Down stuff, I would play a riff for Danny and be like, what do you think about that? And you're like, nah, that's not good. So we'd try something else and like, yeah, that's pretty good. Like the first half, second half, stupid.
Right. Like, we'll try a different second half then.
And he'd be like, well, what do you think if you play it to this beat? And I'm like, oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny and I could work really well musically together. You and I can work really well musically together, but that's about it. Like that's where I want to, kind of end it. So having people that you trust to work with musically, and you trust their opinion, and they're not just going to be yes men to you,
right?
I mean that's very probably Nick is less of a yes man to me than Danny is. Like Nick will tell me, no, there's something wrong with this.
Because I'm a jerk. No.
Fix it.
But most of the time I don't say that because you don't need to fix it.
Well, sometimes I still think you're being a little bit nice.
I don't think so. I'm a mean, hateful cur. So,
like when you told me to. Like, you didn't tell me to use spaces or nothing like that for a long time. And then finally one day you were like, you might want to use spaces. It's like, you could have told me that.
Well, truthfully, I thought you were using it. And then I think you said something. I'm like, wait, he's not using spaces? Well, maybe I ought to mention that. And then, yeah, I mean, I could see that. Or then, maybe earlier on be like, dude, you need to think about automation. You need to think about envelopes.
Yeah, that too.
There was that. But again, some of it really was, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just thought you were doing it. I think I needed to tell you. But I thought you were already, I didn't need to tell you. I thought you were already doing it. But yeah, so again, someone that you can be like, I like that part. I'm not so sure about that part. And again, with something like the rock stuff, Josh can get Danny's opinion on it, and he can get my opinion on it. Yeah. And there might be things that Danny might not dig on that I am,
right?
And vice versa, And so, because you don't want your musical composition. I want to just write music that makes Josh happy. If it doesn't make Josh happy, I'm not going to write it. No. You don't want that. And so if you have maybe a couple people, that can be good. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you've also got to be true to yourself musically. And the thing that just works out well with Josh and me, and then with Josh and Danny, is that in many ways our tastes are similar, but we're not identical people.
You're right.
So they kind of blend well.
Yeah. So that's our main piece of advice is get people to help you.
Yeah, get you a Josh, get you a Nick.
Right.
Yeah. But if you don't have that, if you don't have that, I think, and again, I think you're sort of already doing it, which is just sometimes you got to take a break from it.
Yeah.
And don't push yourself to where you get burnt out on the idea.
Yeah. Because you don't like the very end of this. How do you deal with the stress of recording it without losing the enthusiasm? And he mentioned up here, before, he listens to it so much, does so many takes and everything
that he's just sick of it.
Yeah. If you get sick of it, and this is just my personal opinion, because this is the way I look at the stuff. If I get sick of it, trash it. Like, that's just the way I work.
See, and I'm a little different because there have been times when it's like, if I trashed something, it would have been something that, like,
somebody else would have liked.
Yeah, well,
I would have liked.
Yeah, because there were things I'm like, this is kind of garbage. I'm not really, I'm kind of sick of it. Let Josh listen to it. And you're like, dude, keep working on that.
Yeah.
So for me, that doesn't necessarily work because sometimes my discouragement gets in the way of then I'll go back and listen to them like, well, yeah, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
It's just getting that distance. But then again, but for you, it works to be like, this not working. If I can, if I get sick of it that quickly, maybe I need to get sick of it.
Right. Like I know there's been several times working on the Anathema stuff. Like I'll have a good, kind of an intro part or a first little bit or something, and then I'll get into the next one. Because, I write completely on feel. Like, I start and I'm like, okay, where naturally is this supposed to go?
Yeah.
Like, if I were listening to this song,
where would I want it to go?
Expect it? Yeah, where would I want it to go?
Yeah.
And then that's what I try to do. Well, when I get to that next part, a lot of times I'll start writing that, and I just there's nothing I can do to make it work.
Yeah.
It's just all
there's
sounds
nowhere
like,
to go.
Yeah, sounds like doo doo.
It's like the song should have ended there, but it can't end there, so I've hit a dead end.
So I will select all the tracks at that point and delete that entire part, and then that way I don't have it in my brain anymore.
Yeah, you're not stressing about it, even subconsciously, trying to come up with a solution for it.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, everybody's kind of different in that respect. But yeah,
the main thing, take breaks.
Yeah.
If it's getting on your nerves or something like that, just let it go.
And don't feel too much pressure on yourself to get that perfect take. I mean, again, listen to Cliff Burton bass parts isolated. Yeah. No offense to like Cliff Burton, but that was not perfection.
No.
Again, listen to.
Did we talk about that? Like, there actually may be a reason for that.
No.
Metallica released. It was last year sometime. They released a book called Back to the Front, and it's an official book, but it's about the making of Master of Puppets and the tour, like what it was like and everything. And it's made up of interviews done for the book by all the surviving members of Metallica. Jason not included, not yet.
Yeah,
I mean there may be another book that has Jason in it, but anyway,
Jason.
Yeah, but in a lot of people that were around Metallica at that time, producers and record people and that kind of stuff, fans, and apparently Cliff Burton hated recording.
Interesting.
Like, just absolutely hated it. He wanted to get in there and get out.
Yeah.
Like, and with Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, they recorded those two albums in Copenhagen, Denmark. And Cliff did not like being overseas. Like, he was apparently a homebody. And he really liked being back in California, back in the more, what did they call it? I guess, for lack of a better term, I guess the more rural areas of California, because apparently Cliff Burton was kind of a Californian redneck.
Ah, a little hillbilly. A little Cali hillbilly.
And so being over there in a different country and stuff like that, he did not like that.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to record his parts and go back home.
There you go.
And so, there might be a reason for the sloppiness.
Right. But the point is that's what they did.
Yeah.
That's what was on those albums, and people love those albums.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like sometimes you don't necessarily need to have perfection. Again, if you can find online the separate stems for Enter Sandman, and you listen, like there are parts in there where it's like, well, wow, that's just a hard cut. Like on some of the different guitar things, when they would put this effect and then this, but it works when it's all put together. So sometimes, it can be the quest for perfection ends up sort of, it's a diminishing returns kind of thing. Yeah. That apparently was part of the agonizingly long process of getting the second days of the new album out. Was apparently Travis was very perfectionist about everything,
right?
And then in the third album, he tried not to be, and it's like. Now, the second album is a flippin' masterpiece.
Yeah.
But the third album is also very good. And it's not like it's not as much of a masterpiece because the playing isn't as perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's also that. I mean, sometimes we can demand too much that other people are never going to notice.
Nope.
But so I think it's maybe a combination of some of those things.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Music.
So
and I don't play instruments on my end of it. I mean, I just do sort of composing, MIDI kind of thing, because with my one hand I'm not able to play much in the way of instruments. Now I was a drummer, believe it or not, because I would put a drumstick on my right arm and then just hold the left drumstick, and drums, and I played tenors in high school and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of a tonal musical instrument, I would love to be able to play like a violin or a cello, or even bass guitar. But I don't have enough appendages, so I can't relate to I have nothing in terms of advice on a personal level when it comes to playing an instrument, because, I mean, it'd be like, well, let me hit the snare drum louder.
Oh, my goodness.
What?
We've got emails from David Webster over on the Inner Dorkdom side.
Really?
Yeah.
I was thinking about David the other day. I kid you not. I was like, I wonder what's up with David.
Wow.
That's cool.
Oh, man.
What?
I want to read his emails, but it's not Inner Dorkdom.
Well, we'll have to do it soon. David, if for some reason you're listening to the Rebels cast, we've got your email, sir.
Yeah.
And we will be reading it soon.
But thank you, Hugh, for your email. That was
so that was it?
That was it.
Awesome.
That gave us some good discussion.
It did.
Feel free to ask us any other questions like that.
That's right.
Fun.
We like talking about those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So we're no professionals in those areas, but we do enjoy those things.
Yeah.
Makes me want to write music. I got to write I'm just kind of a spoiler for the Inner Dorkdom, but we have recorded and this is relevant to Star Wars. We've recorded a commentary track for Episode 7, but we haven't put it up yet, and it's partially because I want to do it like it's like you're watching a television program. So I've written one piece of music that's inspired, and in some cases just borrow straight up because it's what I do on the podcast. Some sort of well-known television music. But there's another piece I want to write, and I'm just gonna have to try to hammer that out this week, so we can get that episode out. But it'll be fun. But it's gonna be kind of in a different style, so we'll see. Yep. But I'll tell you about it here in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Josh. All right, so I guess that's that. Is there anything else?
I don't believe so. I think we're done here.
2 hours. It's not too bad. Yeah.
Not bad.
Well, thanks for listening. We hope that you'll stay with us, and I guess we'll be back at some point and talk about some of the Rebel stuff in Season 3 that we missed. So, whoop-de-doo, Basil Nuts. But in the meantime, I guess Ben Burt is having a lovely day, I hope.
He probably is.
That's right. He's a sweet man. So thanks for listening. Keep the emails and the stuff coming. Talking about feedback. If all of y'all are like, y'all need to make more Rebels cast. We love your show. Yeah, that'll help. We may not get excited about Rebels, but we'll get excited about people being excited about us.
Yeah.
So
we're a little bit self-centered.
We're a little bit self-centered like that. It's like, y'all are pretty good. Really? Well, then let me talk some more. We'll get excited again and energetic and be fun and goofy, and it'll be just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So help us do that. Until next time, though, I'm Nick Weymouth.
And I'm Josh Shaw.
And we will see you in the future.
Rebels Cast is not endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited or Disney and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Star Wars and all Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective copyright or trademark holders. You can email Nick and Josh at rebelscastsmg@gmail.com, join the Rebels Cast Facebook page, visit their website at innerdorkdom.com, and visit southgatemediagroup.com to enjoy podcast content covering the entire spectrum of entertainment. For everyone at Rebels Cast, I'm Microsoft David. Thanks for listening and may the Force be with you. End of line.
It would have felt more cohesive.
Yes.